All right, you are tuning in to Social Business Hour on this February 2nd. Happy February to everyone. We are on to a new month, which means a new theme, new category, new topic, new guests. But as always, the co-host and the brains that runs this operation, Rachel Miller, is joining me. How are you, Rachel?
Hey, Brian, I am great. I'm super excited about this topic, and we had a lot of giggles off air, and I think there's going to be more on air. So, welcome to our esteemed panel. I'm excited for today.
I am as well, and I'm excited too because if you might not have seen a lot of these guys' faces that are on this chat this week, but I can promise you've seen them in our Twitter feed across the day, including the content that we share every day. Because really, Rachel and I kind of came together to build this community, and we've had some amazing rockstar community members that have really been with us since day one, not only sharing what we're doing, but participating, bringing in new faces, sharing lots of love with what Social Selling Hour was, SS Hour, and what Social Business Hour is today. So I'm excited for this topic. I'm excited for this conversation, really just talking social media, social business, what it means to everyone. We got people from different backgrounds, different groups, so I'm going to give them a minute to go ahead and introduce themselves, and we'll jump into the question. So as always, if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag SBizHour. SBizHour on the Twitters to get some conversations going. We'll make sure to get those included. Actually, the one that's going to be running the community on the Twitter side for us normally is on camera. So I'll actually kick it to her first. Ladies first. Christin, how are you today? Give us a little introduction background about yourself.
Hi guys, how's everybody today? I hope you're good. I'm excited to be here. My name is Christin Kardos. Some of you know me from Twitter. I'm a big fan of this community, Social Business Hour community. And I actually do social media strategy for a firm called Bayleaf Digital. And I live in Fort Worth, Texas, and I love social media.
All right, that sounds like a good one for us. And you've joined our team to kind of not only help amplify and share our stuff from the social business handle, but also really what we're doing over there at Millennial CEO, really growing our broad suite media group, and excited to have you as part of the team. We can tell you guys that having the conversation and bringing Kristen on, she was actually as excited and as passionate as Rachel and I, which I think, that's even more exciting that we have excitement across the board. And so the second one, I'll go ahead and introduce Ronald. Ronald, welcome to your first Google Hangout Live. Glad you're able to join us today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Brian. It's always a pleasure, getting involved with everybody. I guess a little bit about me. I'm from New York City. I started in the social industry about a year ago. I got a lot of exposure, got a lot of opportunities to work with executives, and actually even partnered with Bryn Tillman, best-selling author of Social Sales Link, and I'm just getting to know a lot, meeting a lot of people within the industry, and I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. Now, I will tell you that your avatar pictures kind of throws us off because there's a full slick back hair, and now you're a fellow bald man.
Before and after,
I like it. Yeah, I actually I to wear a hat today. I haven't shaved my head in too long, and I was too lazy to go get it done today. But welcome, Rana. We're excited for your perspective. I love some of the stories that you have. It's not only fairly new to the social game, but how you're kind of linking that to social selling and such. I think the community really like your perspective on a lot of these topics. And then third but not least, if you are a fan of CMGR Hangout, which I am, of course, as well as just about all of the Twitter chats and all of the video things on Movie and such, Dom Garrett, a big fan of his, and I'm excited that this is actually the first time we've had him on as a guest, but he's kind of been nice enough to have us on for everything he's doing. So, Dom, welcome to Social Business Hour.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Hey, everybody. My name's Dom. You could just call me Brian Fanzo Light. I'm like the free version. You have to pay 99 cents to get him. But the free version comes with more hair on the top of the head, less underneath the chin. I am a social media freelancer. Been just starting some new awesome freelancing gigs. Like you said, I co-host CMGR Hangout with Sherry and Brew. Basically just grab onto their coattails and have them pull me up higher. And I absolutely love SBiz Hour. I loved throwback to the old school, SS Hour. But I'm excited to be here, excited to talk about this, and super stoked to be part of this panel because this is some mega rock stars here, and I'm excited. I'm just excited. I'm an excitable fella, so as you can tell, very excited.
Well, we like excitable fellas. I think if everybody had tuned into our last episode last week, we had 3 CEOs from 3 different social influence tools really dropping some knowledge bombs. Not only tweetables across the board, but I'm actually still seeing them come through. I saw a couple PRs from Tracker's quotes from what he considered influence coming through my Twitter feed today, a week later. So you guys rock. As always, everybody on the Twitters, thank you for tuning in. Lots of familiar faces, including past guests jumping in. Barb Giamonico, hello. I'm glad that you're able to jump in and join us. Also, some of our guests from some of our other chats, Cloud Talk with Tim Crawford, one of our guests on that show, also jumping in. So I'm excited that we have Twitter is flying. We are ready to rock and roll. So question 1, I saw that we throw it out there to the Twitters, but I'm going to start out with Dom, since he said he's Brian Fanzo Light. Where else would we start? I will go with, what does the phrase social business mean? I love this question because it changes and it means something different for everyone in every different industry, it seems. So we'll start with you, and then everyone else kind of jump in on what your thoughts on what really social business means.
For me, I like this question, and I think that social business really, though, just means business. The way that things work nowadays, and the way that businesses work, is that the social aspect of people actually talking, people having a conversation. It's not just one way, but now it's 2-way. That's really what I think of with social business. The way that it's been done long before the internet was in, and long before, well, I should say long after the next thing is here, is that to do really good business, it's a communication thing. It's a face-to-face. It's not just a broadcast and hope it hits you in the side of the head and you want to do business. It's a lot more personal. So at least for me, that's really where social business comes into play.
Awesome. Ronnie or Kristen, jump in there. I think, Kristen, you're on mute.
I'll go. Yeah, I unmuted. I was typing. I'm doing this Twitter thing, so I'm like clickety-clack, so I had it on mute. Anyway, I just think of social business as being a way to connect on a human level on behalf of either yourself or your brand and demonstrate your value, whatever that is, in advance of actually trying to go for a hard sale. It's a relationship-building technique and a credibility-building technique.
I guess I have to agree with both of you, and just to add on to it, what I feel that when I think of a social business means to me is that I feel that a real social business is exactly that. It's supposed to be a social business. If companies are hiring social media managers and they're running all their social media campaigns, and that social media manager knows more about your customers than you do, then I'm sorry to say it, but you're not working. You're not a social business. I feel that the best CEOs demonstrate. Look at Steve Jobs, not only the best CEO, but the best entrepreneur. And why? It's because he was able to put his customers first. I was reading recently that IBM put a study that if your CEO is not social, you're going to be less competitive. And what is that really teaching of the morale of the company? What is that? What are you trying to teach your employees by actually not being a social CEO? And I think that's what when I think of social business, that's what I think of.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rachel. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I agree with what you all are saying. My only, I guess I'll augment it slightly, is that being a social business, when it comes down to, is about communication. I think that's what a lot of businesses are lacking. They're missing that 2-way dialogue, not just with customers, but with employees, influencers, and advocates out in the social streams. So for me, as part of the definition, being a social business is truly engaging in all aspects.
Oh yeah, completely. And I think that's, like, if you look at how big, if you take social medias and you see how much they exploded, you have Facebook that blew up, you have Twitter that blew up, you have all these different avenues that blew up. It's because if you look at the way that people were marketed to, or the way that businesses did business in like the late 80s all the way through the 90s into the 2000s, it was very much just talk at you, talk at you, talk at you. Commercials got louder. Pop-ups started coming up. It was not any sort of communication, and people got fed up with it. And that's why I think is one of the things that led to just an explosion of it, is because people were like, oh, there's a way for us to be able to communicate and actually, oh, we get to speak now? It's absolutely fantastic. And that hasn't gone away. And any sort of business that tries to market or run or operate pre-social is going to end up losing because people want to talk. They want to have that communication. And I like what you put in there, Rachel, the fact that it goes the opposite way too. You know, I look at myself as a community manager. I am the advocate for both sides of this party. So I need to be the one that's talking for the business to the community and then for the community to the business. You know, I'm the one that plugs and plays in both ones and has to speak both languages. So that's what social really is. It's going, all right, let's get everybody at the table, and you as the one go, all right, how can I make sure that you guys can see eye to eye and find what your common ground is?
Yeah, you know, I really believe that, you know, even if taking social media out of the equation of like a true social business, a social business is really focused on what makes a business great, which is its employees, its community, and its customers, right? And it's the idea of how do you connect, collaborate, and grow them. And ideally, social does allow us to connect and grow without really limitations. But even if you're not, you know, fully social media, let's say e-commerce isn't your goal, or you're not driving business via social media, you're leveraging social tools as well as social communication and collaboration. So, you know, I don't like the term millennial when we talk about that, because I don't think it's just because someone's born in a certain age, and I talk about millennial mindset. But it's really this idea that, you know, we can collaborate using social media in real time and actually listen to our customers' feedback, actually engage. You know, I think those are things. I mean, the Super Bowl was blowing up yesterday, and I think everyone on this panel, everyone probably on the Twitter feed that's a Twitter chat person, was in Twitter yesterday during the Super Bowl, and I thought it was so interesting to see some of these great big brands use hashtags, really want to, you know, drop their stuff out there on social media, except they suck as a social business 364 days a year. They're good one day. They decide to use a hashtag. They decide to actually engage and reply to me. I mean, all the people are like, oh my God, Coca-Cola replied to me. Well, that's the first time I'm hearing people talk about Coca-Cola replying to you. Why are they not a social business 364, 365? So I think that's one of the things that interesting from a social business perspective. As we grow, social business is every day, every way, online and offline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to add even one more thing to that, Brian, when I was watching the Super Bowl, look at McDonald's, for example, with their new campaign. Our food, your questions. And what they want as a consumer is like, okay, ask, what is in the McDonald's fries? What do you make your beef with? What kind of ingredients are you using? So they're starting to show a little bit of more transparency in their part. So I think that's pretty much they're making their attempt to being more of a social business. It's just a matter of if they can be more consistent with it.
Yeah,
with other companies.
Exactly. And one of the things that I love too is especially watching, you know, you had some differences in there, but how many of those commercials from the Super Bowl or what we're seeing now is, and I mentioned this on Twitter last night, is it's storytelling. That's what it is. Microsoft did a great job. They told a story about the little kid who had the prosthetic legs and the woman that drove that bus. They said absolutely nothing about Microsoft. You saw the Microsoft at the end. They got Common to do the little voiceover, but they told a frickin' story, and it drew me in. And I mean, is it going to make me go and switch everything over to Microsoft? Probably not. But do I actually value them more as a company because they're just telling a story? Yes, I do. And those are the ones that I really enjoy talking about and want, you know, start that conversation that's going on with it, because they're doing a good job of telling a story and waiting for you to respond to it. That's the fun part about it.
So storytelling is actually the perfect segue into question 2, because I believe all three of you are excellent storytellers. You tell your own story, you tell others' stories, and you definitely showcase your personality. So I was curious if that was a conscious effort, or is that just you behaving as you are online? And
I'll go.
Or whoever.
I'll go. I think I tried initially to leave a little bit of myself out, not to be different than I actually am, but maybe a little bit less animated, I guess. But I found that I can't do that. I just have to be how I am, and I'm not really good at amending that. I mean, I do tend to, you know, watch my language, that sort of thing. But as far as like transparency and whether I actually speak the way that I tweet, that kind of thing. I just do. And I find that if you don't pretend to be something you're not, then you don't have to keep your story straight. It's a lot easier, and your conviction can shine through when you talk about something you're passionate about. So.
Completely agree. It's when you stick to the real story, you don't get in any sticky situations.
I guess for me, it was more of a conscious decision, and it was just a whole bunch of different events that just kind of led up to that. And based on my career, I usually walk between, I guess a razor blade, because either I'm doing something, brilliant, or pretty much, thinking too far ahead, kind of pushing the envelope and trying something new. But, I wanted to be who I am, and I wanted to, actually portray this online as well, because I think, especially during this time, we can't be afraid to make mistakes if we're going to make progress. And I believe a lot of people are just walking on eggshells. Well, I don't want to say this because, people might not like me, or, but it's coming to the point that if you don't like my delivery method, that means that you weren't planning to buy from me from the beginning, or you weren't even planning to work with me. And it just pretty much creates, you cut through a lot of the mud by actually being more who you are, and you attract the right people to you.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's funny in the chat here. I mentioned when we planned for this a week ago that there used to be Dom and Business Dom, and Business Dom, I hear him come in every so often. Normally it happens when I talk to people's parents, or when I first started. When I was in Twitter chats, I remember being so up and professional and just hello, my name is Dominic Garrett. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really glad I have a chance. But that's the same type of thing. You could do that, sure. You could put on that nice suit and try to play up to that, but that's not exactly what I am. And I found that it was just a lot easier, and I had a lot more fun with it when I just decided, hey, I'm just gonna be me. The way that I'm gonna talk in Twitter chats, I'm gonna say stoked. I say awesome more than I ever probably should. I swear every so often. I do those types of things, and that's who I am. And there's times where I slip back into it. I'm like, oh man, is this going to be the best thing for it? Is this going to be right? But I'm like, who gives a shit, really? So I'm just going to go ahead and say what I want to say there, and that's the way that it's going to be. And it is a lot easier. You don't have to keep it up. But then at the same time, when you end up finding somebody who wants to offer you a job, or you end up getting a client that enjoys that, it makes it a whole lot more refreshing, and it makes it a whole lot easier. So you want to continue doing that. So, Business Dom comes in every so often, but I try to keep him at bay.
Well, I think that's interesting too, because I think when we talk about this conversation of authenticity, not only is authenticity, extremely important for a social business, but for anybody on social today, but you also, to be authentic, it's a lot easier to just be yourself. And sadly, I think people forget that side, and we spend more time on thinking about what other people want us to be, or how we're supposed to deliver. But in the end, if we're not authentic, when we go offline, or we take this conversation to turn into a business opportunity, you spend your time saying sorry and telling you why you weren't authentic or why you were fake. So I think we have to flip that conversation, because even for me, for social, I was outgoing. I am me. I am what I am here on this show every week, every day in real life. But I had this really weird pressure, because someone had told me a long time ago that the reason I shouldn't be blogging is because I blog too much like I talk. And they didn't want to hear all my experiences and all my fast-talking elements in a blog post. And that kind of and one of the things I credit for my parents being awesome was that they instilled in me that it was important to be myself. There was only one me, and I strayed away from that early in my career, and then again about 3 or 4 years ago. And man, when I came back to that, the reason you guys got noticed, the reason you're on this show, not because Dom wears bow ties, but because you guys tell your story, because you share your insights, but you also are who you are. You're real people, online, offline. When we do meet offline, it's going to be a real relationship. And I think that has to be something we hammer home in this conversation. Yeah, good plug. I agree, Ron.
Can I add something to that, Brian? I think now in this day and age, there are so many accomplished people. There are so many, experts or veterans or people like yourself who are really great at what they do and are very knowledgeable, that it might be that the one thing that really makes you stand out is who you are. That might be your really big differentiator. So I've been harping on that a lot lately about being yourself. I think everyone should do that.
Completely agree. Just having trouble. I didn't know if I was muted. So let's get down a little bit on the business. I know we have, you guys are here because you are social rock stars. So when did you first get into social media, and what role does it really play in your personal and professional lives? I know we're talking that we let both kind of bleed into each other naturally, but from a personal perspective, what do you use social media for, and what do you use it for professionally? So Bronny, you want to lead with that?
Yeah, I guess I would. I guess I wanted to create, originally I wanted to create a home court advantage to myself. I didn't want to keep working for the corporate world for the next 45 years. I wanted to acquire new skills, and that jobs and even the educational institutions right now are not teaching. So I feel that according to the relationships we make, we grow through either people and projects. And the relationships we make can either enhance, enriching, or they can either drain your life. So social media plays a big role in my daily life, in my day-to-day life, because both personally and professionally, because now I actually have the opportunity where I can build relationships and work on projects with people from across the globe. And during our whole history, we didn't even have that opportunity that you can be able to do it not only with one person, but have even multiple different projects and collaborate with people around the world. And I want to be able to use my talent to help solve the many problems that we are facing right now collectively as globally. So that's the way that social media plays a role in my professional and my personal life.
And Dom, how do you use social media personally and professionally?
Literally everything that I do. It's like I can't remember a time when I didn't, and it's just been, well, I guess I kind of can. I mean, I really got started in things, like throw myself into this world about a year ago. It was almost exactly a year ago, which is fun. I'm coming up on my anniversary for my first ever Twitter chat, and it was just absolutely fantastic. I use it for everything. I use it to crowdsource if I'm going to go to a certain place. I use it to share experiences. I put up every single frickin' picture that I could think of from this last week while I was hanging out with people that I met on social. It's fantastic. I need a bigger screen on my phone so that I can see that stuff. And a lot of people that I hang out with don't get it. They don't necessarily understand it, but if you do put yourself into that, it's just an amazing thing. I mean, and it is. Here's the one thing I heard this distinction, and it sort of goes with the question, and it sort of doesn't. But I'm a little ADD, so I'm gonna let it roll with it anyway. I kept saying around Sherry Rohde and Jonathan Brew from my team GR was hanging out with us last week. I kept saying that I was excited to meet them in real life, and they made a distinction and like, no, you're not meeting in real life. We already met in real life. We're actually now meeting in the physical world. So as opposed to the digital world, we're meeting in the physical one, and I think that that's an amazing distinction because these are some of my best friends in the world, and I get a chance to actually hang out with them physically, but socially, because I use these tools, it allows me to keep in contact with them day in and day out and be able to share my life, share theirs, and get a lot of enrichment out of that. So,
I mean,
long-winded answer. Let me step down from my soapbox there.
No, I think it's a great example, Dom. I mean, just from, Dom, you and I have a digital eyeball-to-eyeball relationship, but it was funny, you jumped on the chat, pre-chat, and, we were talking about, like, hey, how was everyone's day, and you started to tell your stories. I was engaging in your stories as if I was there because I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, so I was like, oh, yeah, I can't believe they didn't give you a T-shirt at the basketball game you were at. Like, that's a direct conversation from your weekend that led into our conversation that actually, it really does make those relationships stronger, and it allows us to grow them wider. And I think that's really what you guys are saying, and I think that's partially what the reason that I've really been drawn to great people on social, because they're not there to get a retweet. They're there to build a relationship that can change the world. Like, I mean, we're talking about something that is much more than a retweet or a vanity metric. And I think a business and a brand has to treat it that way as well. And I made the comment about Coca-Cola, and I wasn't saying just because Coca-Cola doesn't tweet 24/7 doesn't mean they're a social business. I was actually more referring to the idea that if they want to be a social business, I mean, they do a great job with their soda cans putting your name on it. But the engagement and the getting their employees involved in those campaigns and going above and beyond, they could do so much because they are doing great things like that. Where you see other brands, like if you guys follow the team on Buffer, they're at a Buffer retreat for the last weekend, and they've been posting pictures and doing all these things with their team down in Australia. I mean, like, there's ways that these teams can do that above and beyond. I think that's kind of the exciting part as these brands kind of embrace social.
Yeah, exactly. And my favorite thing is when it just, like, my dream is when social and business and there isn't a distinction between the two, and it's just like, hey, these are just one freaking thing. It's just like, you're a person, so you use it, and this is how we're going to talk, and we're going to have that. And I love when those lines are getting more and more blurred, where it's just like, yeah, I feel like I know what you're doing, and we could be sharing in that experience at the same time. That's what social is, especially around events and what people are doing. It's sharing in that experience. And that's the biggest thing there, is the ability to be able to do something like that. Like, I have 6 friends that we call ourselves the back tweet boys and girl. And we have this huge Twitter DM that's going on right now, because thank you, Twitter, for allowing group DMs inside of Twitter. That's fantastic. But we had this huge thing.
Let's see how long you're going to say that's fantastic, but go ahead.
And we have the ability now to. It felt like we were all watching the Super Bowl together last night. We were all sharing in things. We were all at separate parties, and they were egging me on to drink more beer, which may or may not have been a good idea. I finished the Totino's pizza rolls. We all had this huge conversation, and it was fantastic. And it's because we all just use social just like that. I have friends that are literally in all corners of the world that I just get to be like, hey, what are you guys doing? You guys hanging out? And it's like it's my roommate, and it's the greatest thing. So.
Hey, you guys, you're not going to cheat me out of my chance to answer this one, because I want to give some love to MySpace, because the first part of the question was like, when and how did you get involved with social media? I was back in the day with the MySpace. I had some serious wallpaper action going on my MySpace page. And a lot of networking there, old school, like blogging on LiveJournal and Blogger and that kind of stuff. That's where it all started, and I actually, in some ways, I miss the old days. It was kind of fun. But for now, today, I pretty much live on Twitter, kind of Facebook too, and Twitter. I'm there all the time. Sometimes I have to actually just take my phone and put it where I can't reach it.
Hey, I have to throw this up though. Zanga, so much better than LiveJournal, and I will fight anybody that thinks that.
This is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to reel this back a little bit. So when you guys are using social media professionally, do you find that the tactics you use to communicate with your friends is different than how you would approach an influencer or an advocate, or do you just roll forward with the same you?
I can jump in and grab this one. I think it really depends on the brand and the community that you're working with. It's really important that you figure out what the voice is of who you are talking as. If the people in the community know you as you, like I think about it at Scoop It. Scoop It is Allie Greer, and everybody knows Allie is Scoop It. So when she's talking, everybody knows that that's the type of voice that you're going to get. But not everybody knows who the voice behind Applebee's or Cinnabon is, or Charmin, or all of these other different types of brands that I know a lot of people actually interact with. So the important thing is figuring out who it is that you're actually speaking as, and then jumping in as that person would. I work with some health communities. I can't be as quirky and funny in some of the communities that I work with. Some tend to lean themselves towards that. So it's still keeping a bit of personality, but I think it's really taking on the persona and sort of method acting as that certain brand as you're moving forward with it. So.
Yeah, I agree. You do need to kind of maintain your own personal identity, but be respectful of the community that you're representing. I know for me personally, I take a rather tactical approach when I'm approaching, first introducing myself to influencers. I'm respectful of their time, and I use a lot of likes and retweets to get on their attention. So when I do actually reach out, they're like, "Oh, that Rachel chick." But I'm never like up. It's I'm on their radar, but I'm not being super annoying. I guess that's the difference. But it's been effective for me.
Well, I think it's an interesting conversation, though, because I was previously accused of someone saying that, Brian, you only engage people with a certain clout score. And this was someone that just doesn't, well, apparently never follows me. But the idea there was like they were under the aspect, and Rachel, to your point, treating an influencer different, or treating someone that's a thought leader, or maybe treating, someone you're a huge fan of. And I can remember I was social stalking and social promoting Gary V to the nth degree, right? Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'm still, a major fan, but I also think that I also stalk, share, and promote everyone that way that I want to build a relationship with, and I think that the difference, I think you hit it on the head, Rachel, is really valuing time. Right? I think we should always value everyone's time equally because we all get 24 hours. I don't care if you're Gary V or if you're, my dad, who actually texted me this morning asking me to set him up a Twitter account because he was kind of going crazy about watching these Super Bowl commercials and not being able to add his 2 cents into their hashtags and such. And I'm giving him Twitter updates while he's watching the poor Super Bowl on one screen because, I had a Twitter chat going, I had engagement on Facebook going, and watching the Super Bowl. So I think this is, I like this conversation because I think the brands are also listening, and Dom, you had a great example with Scoop It, with the idea that Allie had this conversation the other day, was sometimes she wants to be Allie herself and not be attached to Scoop It, and that's not always easy and not always works for all brands. But some brands have 30 people replying from a branded Twitter handle. Some have 1. Like, I'm working with the UFC. The UFC has crazy amount of handles or crazy amount of followers. They have 3 total people working that. And so I think connecting those people, connecting their stories, and kind of that engagement is the key there. Doesn't have to be off of a personal handle, but you actually have to engage the people that you're replying to on Twitter. Someone had posted on Coca-Cola being very nice that they replied to everybody. It was the exact same canned message. And I think that's not being social. That's just engaging automatically, which is not considered being truly social. So we're going to jump into the next one here. So and Ron, I wanted to get you input on this one. What was the first community that you kind of joined or were attracted to? I know Christin gave some love to MySpace. I'm a big MySpace fan as well. I freshman in college in 1999, so I had a T1 line in my dorm right when MySpace was blowing up, so I could download all the videos and Winamp skins and Napster. But Ronnie, when you think about community, what were some of the early communities that you joined, and how have those communities kind of changed over time? Oh, you're on mute, Ron. Up top.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. I guess the first community that I joined on Twitter was in spring of 2014, and I joined there. It was a LinkedIn chat at on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. It was hosted by Steve and Vivica. I was looking. So what attracted me to this community was a question I had about LinkedIn's algorithm, which no one is able to answer. And I was suspicious that LinkedIn's endorsements, that it affected how people appear, how it ranked people in the search engines. And this, again, I was just starting off, so I needed to go somewhere, somebody, where I can get these answers from, and that's what attracted me to Twitter chat rooms. And I personally, when I found this out, I personally was a little upset because I felt that if the ideal candidate, for 25 years has this amount of experience, another candidate right out of college has more endorsements, they'll be able to be ranked higher in its algorithm. So I wanted to confirm this because I was using this knowledge and kind of warning my network about it to get a leg up and to get more exposure. But I received a lot of knowledge from this, from LinkedIn chat rooms, and it just continued enhancing my professional skills and even, my personal skills as well.
It's funny you mentioned LinkedIn chat, Ronnie, because that's actually where I got my start into Twitter chats as well.
Wow.
It was, like I said, it was just about a year ago, and somehow through I didn't have a lot of connections. I had like 250 people that I was following, but I saw a retweet of this woman named girl, this wonderful, wonderful now friend called, her name is Ann Nova now. She just got married, at Ann H. Nova. And she had this fall in love with Twitter, like 14-day challenge. And I was like, well, that sounds fun. I want to get paid to do stuff on Twitter. And so one of the biggest things she talked about was tweet chats. And I looked it up. It just happened to be on a Tuesday. And I was like, LinkedIn, that's cool. I have one of those. And I jumped in, and I mean, the rest is history. You know, I did that like 2 or 3 times. I couldn't shut up, so I wanted to talk even more. Ended up getting connected with Sarah Nagel over at Sprout, and they started the Sprout chat. Jumped into that and just started rolling with it. And so, you know, that whole idea of communities of people that came together and they're like, hey, for an hour, let's talk about this. And everybody could talk, you know. There are some Twitter chats that are out there that are very much, hey, we're going to ask one person some questions, and then everybody else is sort of going to respond. But, you know, those ones where it's just like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And idea collaboration, people that are not afraid to share the knowledge that they've taken time to learn. It just seemed so selfless, and it seemed awesome. And it was like, hey, you know, me as a marketer and as a salesperson, I'm like, I get to contact a bunch of people. And then when I, you know, put Business Tom off to the side, I was like, and now I get to be friends with people too. It was it was awesome. So, you know, I love that we both got started in Twitter chats too. And the same one. That's fun. Shout out to Steve and Vivica.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, LinkedIn Chat, that's a great one too, because it's, you know, such a focused niche. They do a great job on not only being there but adding value to a platform, which I find is always difficult to understand. But, you know, something that jumped at me from this conversation, other than the fact that we're never going to get to all 10 questions that we had planned, but just the idea that, you know, unfortunately, a lot of times when people or brands think of community, they think of something that is built with exclusivity around it, and that, you know, it's kind of off in its own little area, like maybe in a Google Plus community group, if people are still there, other than for the Hangouts, or on a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group. But we're talking about a Twitter chat here, and I really think, you know, part of this great part of a Twitter chat, and the reason I've always loved Twitter, is it's a fire hose. The amount of people that can be simply following a hashtag, or any one of the people that are using this hashtag can follow and jump into this community and start engaging around what we're talking about. It's not linked to the people in it. It's around the subject that we're all here to kind of share with. And I think that's something that really hit me from what you guys are saying on, you know, why you kind of grew brands and why you kind of grown yourself. So I love that conversation, and I think that's also why you guys are doing great things on social. The people that are, you know, the Twitters are blowing up, and, you know, thanks John Golden, give a, you know, nice shout out to Social Business Hour, you know, adding the video element to, you know, Twitter chats. And really what Rachel and I, the reason we wanted to do that, other than the fact that I just love video time, was that we wanted to highlight our guest a little bit more, and also bring in the video element to make it last for longer. But we wanted the community to expand, and I think that's really what we're talking about here, is the ability to keep growing I mean, how many people when they were sharing their experiences in the Twitter chat were sharing, this was the first Twitter chat that I joined, and these are the new people that I have met that exposed me to all of this other stuff, and it's all about where that grows.
Exactly, and it's that passion too, right? That's what the cool thing, at least for me, is it's that idea that it doesn't matter what the Twitter chat actually is about. You know, it's around, you know, it could be a group of people that love, you know, pinwheels and their pinwheel collection, and they do pinwheel chat, or it's just, you know, like a bunch of people that love nursery rhymes, and it's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star chat. You know, it's a bunch. You can just get a bunch of people all around it, and they have that passion that's just like this fire, and Twitter just is that gasoline that they pour on top of it that lets it blow up so that everybody else can see it. So it's just fantastic.
Yeah, well, another thing that I love about T-Chats is that when you're in a T-Chat, your titles are irrelevant. You could be whether the CEO or, you know, an executive, or, you know, an entrepreneur, or just the most important things in these T-Chats, it's the ideas, your perspective. So by adding your perspective in it, this is when how much knowledge you can really bring. So I think that for the most part, most people pay too much attention to titles before they actually consider it a sense of validation. But when you're in a T-Chat, it's pretty much a community where you're sharing information and ideas, and let's see what happens with it. It's kind of like shake it up, and that's what attracts me so much to T-chat rooms.
No, you're right, and your follower count doesn't matter, right? Your position and your follower count means 0 in a Twitter chat, and the reason that is because everybody, no matter how many followers you have, gets the exact same 140 character space, and it goes right underneath the hashtag. And I think that's what scares maybe some of these fakers, or these ones that like to say that they don't want to engage in a Twitter chat because they can't just rest on their laurels of their 350,000 followers. They actually have to provide value, engage, and input.
Yeah.
So Christin, on your side, I'm curious from not only like the communities that you're involved in, but you're working for a brand as well as your own personal branding, and we're kind of jumping into these social promoting versus personal brand versus your brand. How do you kind of think about that all the way across the board when it comes to what you're doing on your day-to-day?
It is, of course, yeah, I'm not muted, good. It is, of course, really different. When you're trying to promote a brand or provide service on behalf of a brand, it really, not only is it not you, it is that brand, but also then what kind of brand is it and what is their voice? I mean, it can be, there are times when I have to be very different in the way that I communicate and what the strategy is from, say, what I would use for my personal branding. So I actually have a couple of clients that I've had where I've had to actually like structure things around a certain time of day and sort of wall off other things that were going on from it, just to keep from accidentally bleeding over and putting a little bit too much Chris on it. I don't know if others would agree with that, or if I'm just maybe don't know a secret that somebody else knows, but it is different. The approach is different for sure.
No, I agree. I think that's actually part of the discussion that I was having with Ali last week on CMGR Hangout, is like not only how do you kind of keep those storytelling a little bit different, but you want to be engaged in who you are, but you also are so much more than just that brand handle and so much more than what you're doing behind there. And I think too often we associate those, but I think that's where it takes employee advocacy across the board. There's plenty of social employees in your company. The ones that aren't just running your Twitter handle are probably also social, can also tell a story, and that's why companies that embrace social employees across the board, I think, are the ones that are really going to hopefully take social business to the next level. Because I think when that message and that story is coming from multiple people, not just the one behind the brand handle, that's when we can build authenticity.
Oh man, that's absolutely fantastic. I love it when brands actually do that too, because that also leads to like this pipe dream that I have where social is literally worked into absolutely every single aspect of your business. Like this isn't just sales, it's not just marketing. Like let the accountant tell a story. Let the researcher show you how that stuff is, how they got to where they are. The more you know about it, the more comfortable you feel, the more it's like, well, I know absolutely nothing about B or C, so A is obviously where I'm going to go. So.
No, and I think that's actually a valid point, because I don't think every employee needs to be a social employee, but everyone can either tell a story, be part of the story, or be the reason the story is actually there. And I think by getting people to share your story with the content writers, awesome. Get them to tweet, awesome. But I mean, I think it's a matter of empowering them to actually be involved in all of that, because I think unfortunately that's where it's tough.
So we are, the hour is going by incredibly fast, so we're going to skip a few questions and end on, which would be 9, but I think it's now 6, somewhere around there. 7.
Just flip it upside down, and they all look the same.
I'm just going to pull one out of thin air and surprise you all. Okay, so this one, I think we all have some really great stories to share. So question 7 is share a positive social media experience that encouraged you to change your behavior, or I guess validate what you're already doing.
I guess let me just start off with that one. The story that I think right away is how I met Rachel Miller. And before I even get into that, I was fortunate enough to actually sponsor events in New York City in educating VPs, CEOs, founders, and leveraging LinkedIn and social selling. And I got to see the real underlying issue that a lot of the stuff proclaimed by these social media gurus and CEOs, they've been burned through social media. So in trying to find my own voice, this is when I guess I heard I was promoting Social Media Summit 2014 online, and I was using a hashtag, and I found Rachel Miller hashtag, and I saw that you were promoting Social Selling Hour, and I made that decision. I was like, I want to be able to get to know, Rachel. I want to be able to get to know Brian. And I was like, you know what? Let me experiment with this and see if it works. If it works with her, this is I'm validating it. So this is when I sent the email out to an email to Rachel, and I said, hey, I noticed that you're a chief listener. I'm interested in knowing how you're using LinkedIn to prospect. And when she replied back, she was, hey, you know what? Well, the way we use LinkedIn is that we have our own sales team. We use Navigator. We use a whole bunch of different tools. And we do group participations, publishing, and we share content regularly. And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, wow, oh, that's wonderful that you have these clients, your prospects, and but what about future opportunities finding you? Would you be open to hearing some suggestions about your LinkedIn profile that might be a little hard for you to hear, but can make a difference in how you present yourself using this platform? So Rachel's like, yeah, sure, surprise me. So what I did afterwards is that I was, as a networker, I always start to build my relationships in a giving mood. So I asked her, if you find these tips helpful, please let me know. And I was able to go through Rachel's profile and kind of dissect it one by one. And that's when I got an email back. I haven't heard from you from 2 weeks after that. And I thought, I was like, wow, I blew it, but either way, I got to do another experiment. And Rachel hit me back, and she was like, hey, you know what? I like your style. And we was able to set up a conversation over the phone, and I was able to create a new relationships, with Rachel, which kind of led into I guess, into the show. And that just gave me a validation that, what, based on what I'm doing, I am bringing value to it. I am bringing value to this movement. And yeah, that's how I was able to hone in my skill.
Yes, I like the story of how you reached out. And for everyone listening, I really did write back, surprise me. And he did. So no, I think those experiences really make you feel good about what you're doing, and especially when you have a lot to teach. I definitely like your approach. It caught my attention for sure.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, and it's even part of the story of how this chat exists because of a community that Rachel was running that was, had reached out to me about a tool that got me educated on a tool, created dialogue, built a relationship not only with that tool but with people at that company as well as Rachel behind that brand. It turned into a friendship that turned into a, hey, why don't we start a Twitter chat? And now we're working together on multiple different projects. I mean, that's the true essence there of social listening. I mean, if Rachel wasn't paying attention or wasn't wandering or wasn't doing what she was doing, none of this probably would have fallen in place if that original kind of engagement didn't really happen. And that was a couple of years ago, and look where that's come from. So I mean, that's part of why when I think brands and we talk about people that are doing it fake or aren't doing it real, it's because we've seen it work and we're walking, talking reasons of the success of this kind of thing. So I think that's kind of important, right, Dom?
Oh yeah, I agree with you completely. And that whole just like sort of digging in and getting to know people more and more. I mean, the validation for me, it wasn't like necessarily explicitly said, but and I don't want to just keep on harping on this trip that I just had this past week, but I had the opportunity to meet two people in particular, but three. One who I just met this month, but in Sherry, Rhodey, Brew, and then in Sarah Nagel. And I got to hang out with them this past week. And the validation that at least I experienced is that there was like an initial moment of like, hey, we're meeting together in person, and like, let's hug, and this is awesome. But it went from that to sitting down, having drinks, talking, laughing, and just having like a real relationship. It honest to God felt like just riding a bike. Like I've never met these people in person, and yet I'm sitting and I'm just having a conversation about the most random stuff. Brew let me stay in his home for multiple days. Validation for that was that we had this relationship that was built up over Twitter enough that I could, without judgment, walk into his refrigerator, grab a piece of chicken, and eat it without anybody turning the other cheek.
Man, Brew is a brave guy. I gotta talk to Brew next time.
He's very, very brave. He's very brave. But the like that sort of a thing that that's what I strive for. That's what I look for, and I'm not one that's just like, man, I need to find the bottom line. I need to get to X amount of Twitter followers. My clout score needs to get to this so that I can get this job, so that I can have this amount of money. It's like, I'm on here to make relationships. That's what I do. And the minute that it seems like a job, I'll bolt because I don't want it to seem like that. And so that's what I really strive for, and that's what I've started to get. That it just seems like it's old friends getting together. That's what I want. That's what I strive for in the community. I try to get people so that they can come back, and it's like, it's like you're coming back to home, and you're like, all right, yeah, this is where I feel good that I could talk about the type of things. That's why I love Movi, because those people feel really, really close, and I could just talk to you like I'm talking to somebody else. That's the type of stuff that at least makes me feel validated, that I hope that I can give to other people too. Not talk to them like it's just sort of a business thing. Brian, you and I spoke on the phone for the first time a couple weeks ago, and you were like, hey, can I let you go? I'm going to call you right back. And, like in a business transaction, people be like, well, that dude's kind of a dick. But I was like, no, the guy has to go. He's at the Apple store. He has to do that. Like, no problem, man. Just get back to me when you can. It's that type of a stuff that you really hope for to be able to do. So.
Oh, no, that's a good point, because it also gives you a little bit of freedom, right? I talk about that every time with a brand. Brands are always scared of screwing up, but if brands ahead of time build relationships and build that rapport and relate with their community, when they do screw up, we'll forgive them. But if they're a walking, talking robot with a brand logo that doesn't relate and you screw up, you're going to get buried. And I think that's the difference. There isn't really an excuse there. And I think that also even crosses into, someone on Twitter had just come in and said, like, I really wish executives or people in high-powered positions would engage like we're talking about. Well, I will use examples. If you follow Mark Andreessen, and he's someone that I listen to, believe in, he's a big VC, a big futurist leader. He engages with every person that almost tweets at him on the regular. There's plenty. I could give you over 100 executive CEOs, even some of them in Fortune 500 companies. Sandy Carter from IBM. When I tweet at them or share their content or create a conversation, they engage back. Not because of who I am, because I took a time to build that relationship and create the conversation. So I think part of it, the other conversation of this is, don't blame executives and Gary V for not tweeting you back. If all you do is like, hey Gary, share my post. Hey Gary, this is my blog post. Create dialogue, share content. My philosophy is show you care, and the reason I stay with that is because I know it works. And Christin, I think part of what you talk about also, and what you've done a really good job, I think, not only on a brand perspective, but really sharing your story, sharing what you and your husband doing, sharing military background. I think that also kind of goes into these elements of being yourself and building those relationships.
I think so. And to throw my little 2 cents in on that last question, what really makes me feel validated is somebody asking me a question, especially a question that indicates that they might have actually read my tweets or something that I wrote or whatever. When I get a question that's like, hey, how was XYZ that you did, or what do you think about this, or how's your daughter doing, or just those kind of questions, that is money to me. That's when I feel really excited, because I actually have a relationship with that person. I'm not just interested in them, they're interested in me too. So that just makes me feel like maybe I'm getting that piece of it right, and it motivates me to do it more and better. I'm constantly trying to do it more and better. That's my answer.
Didn't mean to cut you off. The theme for February is social business, how I work, and I'm really loving the way this conversation is going, because we are truly focusing on relationships, which is at the heart of social business. And I just saw a great tweet cross my radar from Martin, and he said that Twitter chats like this one make me want to push out less content and engage with people more. And I think that's our goal. So congratulations, guys. Fantastic job.
Yeah, and let me say that you guys do a fantastic job of it. One thing that a tip that I learned is that whenever I see somebody, especially somebody that has a lot of followers and that really pushes out a lot of stuff, I always go, all right, is this person real or fake? And I did it with Brian, to be completely honest. I was like, this dude pushes out a lot of stuff. And so I look, if you go on just the desktop client for Twitter, and you go, don't just do tweets, do retweets and replies and that kind of stuff, you see he's replying to all of these people. You put out an immense amount of content, yet you just dwarf that with the amount of times you're actually just talking to people or favoriting something or saying thanks. And it's that type of stuff that just that puts it above and beyond, and that's where it really comes down to in that making relationships is you're starting a freaking conversation with people. It's so amazing how just saying hey and just saying, hey, what do you think, like blows people's minds. And I'm stoked for the day that doesn't blow people's minds because it's commonplace. But right now, I mean, that's what you do, and it works, and it's awesome. And so kudos to you guys and literally everybody that's in this chat. That's why I come back to it all the time, is because the people in here are real and authentic, and it's not a bunch of business insert name here.
Well, you know, and I appreciate that love, and I also know, and I try to monitor so I am not spamming people's feeds. Like I get an update. I actually shared this on the weekend. I share about 1,000 tweets a week, and I was at 1,500 last week, which is very heavy. I will blame you guys and CMAD as I was tweeting more 24 hours. But to kind of back that up, and this is a shout out to Christin, is if you guys watch Ask Gary V episode 64, which Ask Gary V and Jay Today is much watch every week. But Christin, Gary Vee was talking about engagement and how people suck on Twitter, and he found somebody and the guy sucked, and he clicks on his iPhone on screen, clicks down and says, hey, this person engaged me, Christin. Clicks on Christin's account, goes on Christin's Twitter page, goes in there and looks at all of her engagement and goes, wow, this is a really great social person. This is Gary Vee on his show live, called out Christin because of how great she's doing. So, I mean, kudos, Christin. I mean, that's what we all, and that's the examples, and when Gary's doing that and highlighting people like Christin that are doing it well, that's how we're changing social. So that was awesome, Christin. I know you said your Instagrams and Twitters were blowing up because of it, which is
everything broke, but it was fantastic. It was nice.
No, this is awesome, and I also think one of the questions we get a lot of times about brands, like there's some great brands that run Twitter chats. There's a lot of brands that suck at their Twitter chats, and they didn't really realize how to do a Twitter chat, focused more on the community, less about me. But the other part is they can get engaged. They can jump in here. We have so many different brands in this Twitter chat today that is just awesome. Like we always talk about Movi and a lot of these other different groups, but I mean there's people across the board, and you can also sponsor chats, sponsor podcasts that your employees are doing. And I think that's part of these stories that we have to tell, is that when you see these great communities, great engagement going on, you don't always have to get in and blast your message. You can support it by simply a retweet, and I think that's something that goes a long way. But no, this is awesome. I know we didn't get all the questions, and that's not really a surprise because with a panel of awesome people like yourselves doing great things, the fact that we all like to talk and share our insights is pretty awesome. So real quick, we'll go down the line, share where people can reach you, something you're working on real quick, and then we'll get out of here. So we'll go with Dom first.
All right, go ahead, guys. If you want to, please reach out to me on Twitter. I would love to chat at Dom Garrett. Also, if you want to see me lip sync to Taylor Swift or watch a Movi a day, you can go to movi.co. I think it's movi.co/Dominic.Garrett, and you can find me on there.
Awesome. All right, Ronnie?
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter at Ronnie Curio, or find me on LinkedIn, my full name. Right now, I'm currently working on my next project. Will be I don't really want to get too much into it, but I'm releasing my own company, my own website, and just kind of like having my own platform where I can start providing more value to you guys.
Awesome. And Christin?
Okay. I really, really want you guys to hook up with me on Twitter if you haven't already. That's where I live. But I'm also on the Bayleaf Digital website, bayleafdigital.com. It's a small team that I work with, and that's really all I want to plug today. Just those. Oh, and on Mondays at this time, behind the Social Business Hour Twitter handle.
I know. Actually, it's kind of cool because if everybody wants to get a hold of you guys, they just show up every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and you guys rock it. You're the reason that make this thing exist. Especially everybody on Twitter. We love everyone. I mean, the Twitter stream has been blowing up with lots of love, lots of great social business stuff going on. Rachel, anything last from you?
No, I'm going to try and skip it. I have construction outside, so I'll keep it short and sweet. But thank you all. You are rock stars. I adore you. Keep doing what you do. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday, everybody. If you're looking to watch some of these past episodes with some of our awesome guests, awesome community managers that everyone that's been in here, we've had probably 20 different of our past guests jump into the Twitter chat handle today, which I think makes me happier than anything else than trending on Twitter or any of that other stuff, because it truly shows that these leaders like yourselves are engaged. But go to millennialceo.com/sbizhour, and you can find all the videos, all the information, blog posts, all that stuff up there as well. So with that, we will see you next week, same time, same channel, 4 p.m. SBizHour. Thank you, guys. Thank you, panel. Cheers.
Bye.